Hey guys, I went through patch 14.18b's stats on the top performing emblems and put together a tier list as well as the best way to play with these emblems vertically, as well as the best item holders for these emblems. So we're going to dive into that right now. In S tier, you'll notice that all of these emblems are +2 in order to hit their vertical maxes. So +2 Faerie to get to 9 Faerie, +2 Honey to get to 9 or 7 Honey, +2 Frost to get to 9, +2 Portal to get to 10, and +2 Witch to get to 8. All the A tiers are actually +1, and with the exception of Multistriker, which is +2 to get to 9. And these, I'm going to go through just the S and A tier. Keep in mind that +3 Eldritch is the best vertical in the game. And you can see here a breakdown of I put all of these except for Pyro in the S tier since they have like kind of the highest cap. You also notice that these are all spatula crafted. None of the S tier are formed with frying pan, the new way to create emblems in 14.18. In this page, I put together kind of just a cheat sheet that allows you to really quickly see how to craft the emblems. The bottom side is using frying pan, the top side is using spatulas. And I put kind of a unit that reflects that item component. So for example, Callista wants attack speed, Varus wants attack speed as well. And so this is just an easy way for you to kind of reference how to create these emblems. So with that said, we can get right into each of the different emblems, and we'll start with Faerie. So with Faerie, in each of these boards, I put together kind of the core verticals at the bottom and then how to flex in different units on the top. So your kind of primary carry is going to be Callista, which is why putting in Hecarim and Akali is usually the standard. If you can get 2 Faerie emblems to go 9 Faerie. This also gives you Multistriker with Callista since he's your primary carry. It gives you Bastion with Lilia and Hecarim, as well as Warrior with Katarina and Akali. And 9 Faerie gives all of your units a lot of HP, as well as a second crown at 7. And then at 9, they all become radiant. So while Hecarim Akali are the best as far as just like kind of the cheapest, most efficient way to get this board together, they are not necessarily the best item holders. They were kind of more like trait bots. So Camille and Morgana are really strong since they're just 5 costs. If you can fit Camille with, especially if you just have one emblem, then you can take out like a Seraphine, for example, put in Camille and Hecarim to get 3 Multistrikers. And then you can put the second crown on Camille since she just can become a strong secondary carry. Frontline units benefit a lot from the additional HP, so that's why like even warriors can be pretty good. One thing to note is that the Queen Guard's armor in the stats was pretty bad on most units. Rakan is just kind of the default since he's your main tank, but it's actually pretty good on Gwen because it increases her tankiness and it boosts healing and shielding. So if you can get BT as kind of her third item, or if you have some type of built-in augment healing of some sort, then she could benefit from that. So I won't go into all of them, but these are like kind of the different permutations. The most common again is these two, but if you have a lot of gold and you're at level 9 thinking about capping out your board, then you can start thinking about throwing in these. And Hecarim you can pair with like Tom Kench, Zerath, to cap out your board with Arcana. Next, we have Honeymancy. So Honeymancy lately is played with Blitz and Zig's reroll. It's especially good with Zap Attack, and it can be good with the Augment 2 Tanky. With the Honey Emblem, there weren't any crazy standout holders for it. So everybody up here is kind of more of a trait bot. It's especially good. Honey is especially good with Arcana, since Tom Kench and Hecarim line up perfectly with Vanguard and Bastion with Blitzcrank and Nunu. Then you can cap out with Xerath, especially if you somehow get a Vagar 3. Let's say you're playing Prismatic Ticket and you just hit 3-star everything and you're already rolling a lot and getting charms, then Xerath can really help cap out your board. You have 5 Honey here, so if you get to level 9, you can even cap out with 4 Arcana, which is especially strong. Alternatively, if you are able to get Vagar to 3-star, then you can play 3 Mage and Incanter with Zig's Karma. This also gives you Chrono. Galio gives you Vanguard. And if you're able to really cap out, you can also go Nora, Taric with, let's say, Galio. So that way, and you notice that Karma and Nora can hold similar units. So Galio is kind of the kind of core of this, and then you can flex between Karma Vex or Nora Yumi. Nora Yumi, you can. I'm not sure who would be better. Probably Blitzcrank to put Yumi on in order to give healing and scaling AD/AP over time. And Taric pairs well with Nunu. So that's, if you can get to 7 Honey, that will deal a lot of damage. Honeymancy, you can put it on a carry, so you can put on Karma, you can put it on Nora and Yumi, Xerath. But even if you put it on frontline, once the unit dies, it leaves 2 Bs that follow nearby Honeymancies. So it's actually not too bad if you put it on a weaker frontliner like Hecarim. Let's say you put Hecarim to the side of Blitzcrank, then he'll feed the Bs to Blitzcrank. Next, we have Frost. So with Frost, you can easily stabilize with 1 emblem on 7 without the Diana, because Diana can be hard to hit. And if you can get 2 emblems, then you can go for a cap out of 9 Frost. With the Frost trait, it gives the champions AD and AP. So at 7 Frost, it gives them 50 AP AD, which is pretty good. For example, for Varus and Nasus are the most common combination because it gives you Pyro, it gives you Shapeshifter with Swain. Varus and Hui give you Blaster together. The emblem is mostly put on Varus, but for 50 AD, which is equivalent to having a Deathblade on him. But if you can cap out with like a 3-item Varus, there might be better permutations, and you could put the emblem on Nasus. But most common is you put it on Varus, because just from an item economy standpoint, you want to get to 3 items on Varus as possible. But if you're playing on a portal, or let's say you have Buried Treasures Prismatic and you have a ton of items, then you can always put the emblem somewhere else. The cap out of this board is Briar and Smolder, just because they're legendaries. They basically fit the same purpose as Varus, Nasus. You have a Blaster here to pair with Hui, you have a Shapeshifter to pair with Swain, and either of them can hold the emblem. Morgana is just really strong as a standalone unit. So if you just happen to get her, you can just throw her in. You get Preserver, you can pair her with Rakan for additional Preserver, or you could just get more frontline with Taric with the Diana if you have Diana at 2-star. And then lastly, you can just throw in Hecarim to pair with Diana and Tom Kench with Warwick for Arcana. And if you are able to get to 10, you can also throw in Xerath. Core carry is going to be Olaf and one of whoever's going to hold your Frost Emblem in the back line. Or if you happen to hit a lot of Hui's and you can go for Hui 3, Swain 3, that's another option. Next, we have Portal. So Portal is a lot easier to stabilize on 8 if you have a Portal Emblem, since otherwise you need to hit a Nora. And Portal, if you can get 2 Portal Emblems, then you can go 10 Portal, which is, if you can stabilize on 8 and push levels and stay ahead of tempo, that's the way that you get there. Most of the time, you're going to put in Diana and Nami as a way to cap out, since that gives you Bastion for more frontline with Taric, and then Nami with Galio and Nora gives you 3 mage. That's just the bed's 3rd mage to put in, gives you CC. And putting these 2 in kind of supports the general game plan and win condition for Portal, which is to sustain. Ideally, you can build an Archangel's on Rise to let him scale through the fight. And you want really strong frontline and CC in order to allow your Portal to support your team, deal damage over time, and kind of outscale the enemy team. Alternatively, you can put in Arcana, since you got Bastion here, you got Vanguard here, and Xerath if you're able to get that many units in to cap out in the late game. And Briar and Morgana are just general purpose very strong. Briar and Jace pairs very well, and then Morgana gives you Witchcraft with Zoe. Next we have Witchcraft, and one thing to keep in mind with Witchcraft Emblem is that I see it's most popularly put on, let's say, Karma or Rise as your carry, similar to Frost, where it kind of can instantly give your carry an extra item, which helps with your item economy. But for max cap, that might not actually be the best. And the reason for that is if you look at the Witchcraft traits, for the most part, none of these really help your carry deal more damage except for the 6P6 Witchcraft, which causes cursed enemies to take 25% bonus true damage from witches. But in the stats, and maybe someone has more insight into this, the tanks actually have much better stats holding the Witchcraft emblem, which implies to me that just regular items can be better than the Witchcraft item on your carries. And if you put it on your tanks, it just allows them to kind of drain tank, cast their ability quicker, and then apply the curse to an enemy nearby. So as far as Witchcraft goes, there are a lot of ways to play it. The most common is Karma and Zillion, which gives you Chrono, Incanter, and Preserver. And the game plan here is you just sustain. You want like a blue buff, red buff on Karma to just continuously spread burn, anti-heal, curses over the enemy team, and you kind of continuously heal up over time. So this is at 8, you can add in like a Rakan Bard at 9, 10. Alternatively, you could do Rise and Taric. Rise pairs well with Zoe for Scholar. Taric with Poppy gives you Bastion. And Karma and Rise would both be good with red buff Morello just to spread anti-heal. You can also go max cap with Briar and Diana. And with Briar, Nico gets Shapeshifter, Diana, Poppy gets Bastion, and the emblem on the both of them allows them to take true damage and kind of drain tank. You could go Gwen and Bard for dual warrior carry, and then the Sugarcraft and Preserver. Alternatively, you could go Milio, Rakan, Katarina, which gives you 3 Faerie, 2 Preserver, Rakan, Morgana, and then 2 Warrior, Katarina, Fiora. So it's a little bit more expensive. And then the Scholar, Milio, Zoe. So that's Witchcraft. And I believe that covers all of our S tier. So if we go back here, again, 9 Faerie, 9 Frost, 7 Honey, 8 Witchcraft. These are the top performing gold traits that we put into S tier. And then now we're gonna, and Portal is the only one that's kind of not here because 8 Portal, well, 10 Portal is actually a prismatic tier. So you can see 10 Portal, Faerie, Frost, Honey, Witch, those are your S tiers. 10 Mage is especially hard to hit, and 10 Eldritch is also very hard to hit. The reason 10 Portal, you can see here frequency-wise, is played so much more is it's just so much easier to stabilize that on 8, so you can actually generate the gold to go 10. So next we're going to go through the A tier. Again, these are mostly 1+1s except for Multistriker. So go with Pyro. So Pyro, there's only 4 Pyros, so it's very flexible how you want to play it. And Pyro, again, gives you attack speed, which scales across the game as you collect more cinders based off of the number of enemy champions your Pyro champions kill. You can see that most of these are going to be attack speed champions. So Smolder, Shyvana, gives you Blaster with Varus, gives you Shapeshifter with Nasus. Throwing in a Nomsy is really good according to the stats to get you 3 Dragon, which helps Smolder a good amount. Alternatively, you can put in Olaf, Hui, and Twitch, which gives you 3 Frost, 2 Hunter, and then the 2 Blaster. And if you have a Frost emblem, you can also go Frost and Pyro. We also have Callista. So Callista benefits from attack speed a lot. And then you can throw in Hecarim for 3 Multistriker and 2 Bastion. And if you happen to have enough items that you can also dual carry Varus, then you can throw in Tristana for Blaster and then Katarina for Warrior here, which gives you 3 Faerie, so that you can put a Faerie crown on Callista, which again saves you items. Because then you have Pyro, Emblem, and Crown on Callista, so you only really need one other item to fully itemize Callista. If you happen to get enough gold to get Camille 2, it's just really easy to slot Camille in. You can see this is only 6 units, but very high powered. Another thing to notice here is that you can see that there's a trend in either Rageblade, Smolder, Callista. So you can start off here and then cap out with this, or you can start with Olaf and then cap out with Camille. Briar in general, you could just, if you get a Briar 2, you could just throw him in because he already pairs well with Nasus. Also another BT holder, Diana with Shen and Hui with Blaster Varus pairs well, and Swain. And then Fiora with Akali and Nico with Nasus gives you Witchcraft, Warrior, Shapeshifter. So playing Pyro is extremely flexible and there's a lot of different options. You could just notice that the general trend is either attack speed backliner or a melee carry, mostly AD. Diana is the only AP exception. So you can actually even item hold with Akali or Neela in the early game with a BT and melee items and go from there. For Chrono, these are your core 5 Chrono units. And in order to understand what units to add, we should take a look at how Chrono works. So Chrono gives your team ability power, and then after the countdown, ends, it freezes time, if you can see with the 4-piece, and gives your team, the Chronos keep fighting and gives your team more AP. And then the 6-piece gives your whole team attack speed as well. But for the most part, the Chrono Emblem, you want to go on a AP carry that will deal damage, because they're going to keep fighting during the frozen time, and that's where you can get a lot of advantage. And then they get an AP boost at the end, so you want it to be an AP carry ideally, not an AD carry. And so you can see here that Morgana is the best holder. You can get Witchcraft with Incanter with Karma here, and then you could throw in more Preservers since you already have Zillion, Morgana, and then you could throw in a Bard, which is an extremely high cap. You also notice that the items, for the most part, on all of these, because your frontline is not very strong, like Camille's not a frontline, Vex is usually your early mid-game frontline, but ideally you can have a frontline melee AP in the form of Morgana or Diana that can both deal damage and soak up damage. So that's why Preserver is the best, because your team can continually heal during the frozen time period and continuously deal more damage. So we can also put in Diana and Hecarim, and this gives you 3 Multistriker, which lets you take advantage of your Camille if you have her at 2-star and itemized, and then you can pair Hecarim with Diana for that Bastion. And again, you want to put your AP melee on Diana. Of course, usually it's hard to get to the 5 cost, so Gwen can be your early item holder. If you can get an early Morgana, which gives you Preserver, then you can get Fiora with Witchcraft, and then Gwen with Fiora. And if you can also get a Bard for Preserver, so if you don't have Morgana yet, the Bard will pair well with your Gwen to give Sugarcraft, and Sugarcraft also gives her 20 AP. You can also throw in Xerath or Milio. So one thing Milio looked pretty good in the stats, because I suspect the reason is because you can throw in Bard with her for Preserver and Scholar. And then during that frozen time, if Milio is a Chrono, then she'll keep attacking and allow your team to get more items. And during that frozen time, if you're kind of starved on items, that makes a big difference to get your Chronos more items, and might allow her to cast twice. And that stall really allows Milio to take advantage of itemizing your whole team. Of course, you can cap out with your Arcanas. Again, you want 3 multis with Jax and Camille, and then Hecarim pairs well with Arcana and Xerath. Xerath just needs time in order to cast, especially if you can get an Archangel on Xerath. That extra AP from Chrono, and if you give him enough time to charge up, he can just carry the fight as well. And then lastly, we have Nora, Yuumi, and Nami. You already have Vex here for Mage, and Mage benefits a lot from AP. Again, you get 80 AP with 6 Chrono plus the built-in 15. So you get 95 AP. You got a bunch of CC here, which sticks with the game plan of Chronos, which is to kind of stall out the fight. Ideally, you have a red buff or a Morello on your Karma. And then Nora, especially with Yuumi, can continue to scale the damage and healing of whoever it is you put it on. So for example, you could put it on Camille, you could put it on Karma, you could put it on Nora. And so Yuumi benefits a lot from this scaling and the frozen time as well. That's just free scaling for your team. Up next is Multistrikers. So Multistrikers, you have 7 by default. If you can get to 2 emblems, then you can get to 9 for a big cap out. And at 7 and 9, you get a big boost because At 7, you heal 3% max health every attack, and at 9, you heal 10% max health every attack, which is a huge difference, especially if you can get like a Hecarim 3 or a Camille 2 online. And so with this, the best item holders usually benefit from attack speed. You can see here that these are all 5 costs that are the best statistically performing, but most of the time you just play Shen and put the Shen there. You could drop a weak, like you could drop Ashe and call it a day, since sometimes you want to be rolling for like a Hecarim 3. So this is 7 units. Most of the time you can't find Camille on 8, but if you have the Emblem on 7, then you can put this team together and you just stick the Emblem on Shen. Shen gives you both Bastion and Pyro, and Pyro gives you more attack speed, which is great. But to cap out, if you now that in 1418B you get an item remover, to cap out you can eventually move over to these 5 costs. So you can play Arcana, since you paired with Hecarim, the attack speed lets Xerath attack faster. You can throw in Tahm Kench Ahri over time to add more Arcana power. Briar and Nasus is just overall, Briar's very strong. You can gain attack speed and more tankiness, since you don't really have much of a main tank with Multistrikers. You just want to kind of blow through the enemy team. But if you happen to have tank items and you don't know what to do with it, then you can just put in the shapeshifters. And Briar, if you happen to hit a Briar 2 before you hit a Camille 2, then Briar can just hold the same items. Next we have Milio. So Milio you could pair with as just like a Faerie. You can pair with Katarina to get 3 Faerie for Callista. This also gives you 2 warrior here and anti-heal with Katarina if you don't have anti-heal. Or you could just swap it with Rakan, again just giving you more frontline, and Milio can then continue to feed your team items. We also have Smolder and Varus. So Varus, similar to the Briar Nasus combo, Varus gives you Pyro with Akali, and then Smolder, if you have, can help you cap out. If you just happen, like you can move your Gwynsu's Rageblade to Smolder, but more likely if you just have the item components, then this can be another cap out. Next we have Arcana. So Arcana Emblem, there's typically a few ways that are mostly played. One is Arcana Rise, you can see at the top here. One is Arcana Honeymancy. Rise is like the most common by far. Honeymancy is a lot less common. And then Preservers is like the least common, but probably the highest cap. And the Arcana Emblem doesn't really benefit the holder, so it's just, you just put it on a trait bot like Galio or something like that. And then Camille Diana can be thrown in with this Preserver board as just like a legendary cap out. Finally, we have Scholars. These are your 5 base Scholars. You throw in 1 extra Scholar, gives you 6 Scholars, and gives all your Scholars more AP and a Gunblade, which can be extremely strong, especially since you're playing 5 backline carries. Your frontline is going to be pretty weak, which is why these are the kind of primary options. You can play the 3 Preservers with Bard. This is kind of challenging to get to work since your frontline's so weak. Usually you'll probably carry like a Stoneplate Rakan in the frontline. Or you can go Diana Taric. Again, for more frontline, Taric gives you 3 Portal with Rise and Zoe. You can also go Hecarim with Ahri for Arcana, Taric again with Rise and Zoe for Portal, and then throw in Xerath. So Xerath with that Scholar emblem can cast a lot faster. If you have Archangel Staff, he could deal a ton of damage and blow up the enemy team. You can see that this is 8 units and your frontline's super weak, so it's a lot easier to do this if you like go 9 and also have like a Tahm Kench or something like that. And then you can also go Tahm Kench Galio. Galio as the kind of the cheaper option, gives you Portal, and just as a way to like kind of hold down the fort until and kind of throw in Xerath as well. But again, your front line's really weak here. So the key thing with Scholar is you probably want a stone plate, fully 3 itemized 2-star frontline, and push 9 so that you can get more frontline in. So that covers all of the S and A tier emblems. If you found this video helpful, let me know what you thought. This is my second video kind of putting together an aggregate list of my learnings, trying to teach it in order for me to learn the material better as well. So if you'd like to see more of these, or you have a specific topic or idea, please let me know in the comments, and I'll see you in the next one.